At the end of Deltarune Chapter 2, Kris opens a dark fountain, and many were left scratching their heads. Is Kris the knight? Did they have malicious intentions? Many have made their stances clear, myself included, yet one stone remains left unturned. With Chapter 2's distinctly different routes, why is it that Kris still makes the same choice in the end? Some like to chalk it up to a third entity. I think that's sloppy storytelling. But I think I finally figured out a practical explanation for Kris's actions, and it all hinges on one person. Susie. So come along as we discuss the Snowgrave route and Kris's motivation. Kris and Susie. To understand Kris's motives, one must first understand Kris's relationship with Susie. At the start of the game, Susie shows herself as brash and threatening, yet even when she threatens to devour Kris's face, she shows a soft side with regards to their mother. She shows them mercy. That's not to say she's nice. In fact, she's incredibly pushy, forcing Kris to check out the closet to mask her own fears. When they finally reach the Dark World, she's the one hurrying them along, complaining if they're too slow, and all around dominating their every action. And yet, she holds no illusion of Kris's choices mattering. She doesn't sugarcoat things like Ralsei does. Susie does what she wants, making her own rules, and while at first she's extremely aggressive and hardly a team player, I think there's something that Kris admires about this. And even after she starts softening up, Susie still acts outside of our control. During the escape sequence, we can only give suggestions. This also applies to Chapter 2's Ferris wheel scene. No matter what you choose there, Susie reacts the same way. We are given the illusion of control, but not true control. Remember that for later. All this to say, Susie's independence is in stark contrast to Ralsei's eager-to-please, pushover personality, and by the end of Chapter 1, it's clear that Kris cares deeply about Susie, as they defend her from Spade King on their own. And when Toriel calls at the end of Chapter 1, they describe her as a friend, perhaps even their first true friend in years. By the start of Chapter 2, it's clear she's come to value them just as much, as she eagerly awaits their next visit to the Dark World and practically drags them along for the ride. There's a fear that they won't be friends anymore if the Dark World turns out to have been a dream, something I think is crucial for motivating Kris in the normal routes ending, but in general shows how much Susie cherishes their adventures together. Something that Chapter 2 communicates is mutual between her healing Kris higher than the other party members, the way they describe Susie positively no matter what you choose in the intro, plus the fact that selecting Susie's name for the festival question is the only one that elicits a natural response. Anything else causes confusion. And as long as Susie is in the party, you are on the safe, normal path. Sure, you can beat enemies into submission and scare them away, but that's it. In fact, Susie's brashness once again shows up in full force, specifically during the DJ battle, where she's the one who chooses to act separately from Kris's orders, and even forces Ralsei to do the same. She's also the one who takes initiative in helping Kris with the arcade controls. She's the only one who pushes Birdley to admit his own faults in the normal route. She's got a strong personality, and is always looking out for her friends. She may be more open to cooperation now, but that doesn't mean she'll do everything she's told. And sadly, her own proactiveness enables the more malicious path, even if it takes a little time. Everything proceeds exactly the same, until you reach the city. Until Susie leaves the party. Until Kris is alone. Until Kris meets Noelle. Proceed, Angel. Noelle is not like Susie. She's a sweet girl, but she's also notably more timid, more eager to please. She's impressionable, which works to our benefit. Noelle's ice magic freezes enemies, so they cannot flee. Susie and Ralsei are not there to witness this and intervene. Through Kris, we force Noelle to undergo a negative character arc, all for the purpose of getting stronger. And no, it is not Kris doing this. When Kris is downed, Noelle still hears the voice, our voice. And in her hospital monologue, she notes how Kris doesn't sound like himself. Every abusive choice we make is ours and ours alone, as we can easily abort the route at any time and things will return to normalcy. But in the end, Kris is powerless to stop us from derailing the story and traumatizing Noelle, and quite possibly themselves. What was once a single puppet has now become two. And what's worse, Spamton, a fellow puppet, enables them by keeping track of the kills and offering his commemorative ring. Everything gets progressively worse as the city fills with frozen corpses and Birdley meets his end. Until Noelle leaves the party. Until Kris reunites with their friends. But by then it's too late, isn't it? Aftermath. Outside the mansion, Susie notices something is off with Kris. She shows genuine concern for them, even if Kris won't specify what happened. Once she and Ralsei return to the party, the killing stops. Enemies flee again, or you can simply recruit them. It's almost as everything is back to normal, except it's not. Spamton has overtaken the mansion, the very man who sold the commemorative ring and who encouraged this path to begin with. Half the place is blocked off, Rule's card has already turned to stone. Save points no longer give encouraging words about being filled with a certain power. It's just silence. Even if you do recruit, the path is set. You can only proceed toward the inevitable fight with Spamton. Kris refuses to let us see what Susie and Noelle are up to. Perhaps they're too shaken by what happened. Perhaps they want to keep us from seeing Noelle after what we did to her. Or perhaps it's our own will dominating over theirs, so strongly planted in place that there isn't even an illusion of choice. We just want to keep going. We just want to skip the fluff. Ultimately, Kris ends up alone again, finding Spamton without the aid of their friends. And it is at the end of this fight that we get some raw insight on Kris's feelings of vulnerability. Kris calls for their friends, but we whisper for Noelle. And then, it's almost as if everything is normal. Except Birdley is not awake. Except Noelle is terrified to see Kris again. And yet, outside the hospital, there's almost a sense of normalcy. The story proceeds the same as it is in the normal route. Only the blue bead has broken off the path. A cry for help. This brings us back to Kris's home. The slashed tires, the sleepover, the fountain. You may ask, why would Kris, after everything they endured here, open another dark world and put others at risk? Well, consider the following. If they open a dark fountain, they guarantee you the next dark world adventure is on their own terms. Susie and Toriel are there with them, the two people closest to them. Toriel is their mother and an adult, less inclined to be persuaded like meek little Noelle, and Susie is Susie. Brash, bullheaded, and if she's there, she can keep Kris in check. Susie won't be inclined to leave Kris alone if a fountain opened up in their home, and Toriel is, well, Toriel, a very protective mother. And the cops? That's another easy answer. In addition to existing concerns about more people falling into dark worlds, she's a cop. If Kris does anything dangerous or forces others to do the same, that's one more potential obstacle. In fact, if Kris gets arrested in the aftermath, that would completely thwart our abilities to influence other characters, even if that means they aren't free to steal the fountains either. And if they prove to Undyne that dark worlds are real, maybe the word will spread in earnest. In short, there are a lot of reasons Kris might pull such a gambit, and all without the need for convoluted third entities to distract from the Kris versus player struggle in the narrative. There's a lot to consider, especially in Deltarune's incomplete state, and especially when we still don't know the full story behind our presence here, what the Red Soul means, and how Kris got in this predicament. But we do know quite a bit about the Red Soul in Undertale that sadly gets overlooked. I recently put out a video on the topic that sadly hasn't been performing so well after its initial launch. I'll put a link in the cards as well as the end screen and description, but please do check it out if you can. It means a lot to me, as a lot of work went into it, and it's really been sad to see it peter out. If you have any thoughts on Kris's motivations in either route, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, a thank you to my lovely patrons, whose names you see right here. If you want to support what I do and get cool bonuses, like early access to scripts, works in progress, and tons of content for my other projects, you can find a link in the description. And don't forget to check out my Undertale webcomic Inverted Fate for a multimedia project that gives a ton of love to the entire cast and world of Undertale. Thanks so much for watching, and have a fantastic day.